start?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to Who's Your Mama Bear. We're recording this on video and audio, so it's a very special episode. We're going to answer your questions today, or Danielle's going to answer a lot of questions that people have had and written in with. So thanks to everybody who's written in. We can't answer them all today, but we're going to try to get to a bunch. So Jamie, do you want to start with one?
Sure. I will start with a hard one, and this is
great.
Obviously for Danielle.
Lay it on me.
All right. This is from a mom of 2 boys in Tampa. How can I encourage my husband to help with childcare? He thinks working is harder and he deserves a rest, but I need help.
Well, this is a really massive topic and a really big question that I get asked in a variety of different ways kind of in the last several years, because essentially what is the balance of parenting? And there does seem to be this competition of who does more or who has it harder, and that never ends up with a positive ending, you know, for your children or for your relationship. So usually what I like to do is say to them, you sit down and you talk about division of labor. So instead of it being, I'm more tired, you're more tired, or I do this or you do that, or this is harder or that is harder, kind of sitting down and saying, what's our division of labor as the dad? What's our division of labor as the mom, or 2 parents or partners, or whatever that looks like? And I feel like when you stick to more of a logistical conversation and stay away from the emotional, that can help if it's that drastic.
So you're basically saying, hey, these are the chores that need to get done. I'm going to do dishes. Can you change the baby and get the bottles?
Yes, like you are a bottle washer and you're the one who always refills the diapers or whatever that is. And then if the conversation is like, well, I'm so tired, I'm working, you know, what I usually like to say is, well, the baby is 50% me and 50% you. We're equal partners, but that doesn't mean the time spent with the children has to be equal, but our investment in the division of labor needs to be equal. So sometimes someone's list is longer because they're home more, but it doesn't mean the other person's list is non-existent, because we want a role model for our children in equal balance in parenting, because that's going to drive them to seek out positive, healthy partners. And it comes from watching a partnership with your parents. It does.
So do you recommend writing it down, like creating a list and posting it in the house?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do.
Sometimes that visual cue helps certain people if it's more concrete.
Right.
Right.
And it can't be a competition. Well, I have 7 on my list and you only have 4 on your list. It can't be an emotional battle. It has to be kind of like a problem solving for the job of parenting in the house.
Like, don't be passive aggressive and just tape the note. Be like, hey, babe, we have 35 things to do. Here's your 15. Here's my 15. We're going to do this like a team. Not like, here's the list. If you see it in the kitchen, maybe do something.
Right. And then what's tricky is if you have a partner who's not interested in having that conversation, that's a whole other situation, because that's more of kind of a therapeutic need, essentially, because that kind of ties back into what were your dad and your mom like, and what did they role model for you. So a lot of times we have an expectation. So I had a super hands-on dad, equal partnering, and so when I picked Justin and we got married and he picked me, I had an expectation that he was going to act in the same way as my dad. And if he didn't, it would have been a huge source of conflict, and it would have been a huge strain and really challenging.
But I think that's a good point for our Tampa mom to kind of take into consideration. I remember you said this on an earlier podcast, that the issues before you have a baby are still going to be the issues after. And like, there is that time to go, okay, maybe we need to have a mediator or a third party involved if it's a bigger picture. But I like your suggestion of, hey, let's tackle this chore list together. Let's be collaborative. Let's be teammates. This is a shared goal here, and here's the list. Like, let's get at it.
Right. Because the competition isn't going to get us anywhere.
No.
Especially when you're sleep deprived and stressed and, you know, you're not operating with all of your mental capacities. Yeah, you need to just handle it.
You have time to be right. You need to get it done.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so we got a bunch of questions about the 90-minute rule, which is sort of that magical number that Danielle told us about, when you know that your baby needs to be put down during the day after 90 minutes. One mom from Denver, Colorado, with a 2-month-old said she's trying to apply 90-minute rule to her 2-month-old, but this guy is wide awake past 90 minutes or will start to nod off right when it's time to feed. So she doesn't feel like the 90-minute rule is applying.
Right. So it gets really tricky in the first 6 to 8 weeks, because the babies are feeding so often that it's a little bit difficult to find out that window of when you go down for the nap. So what we really like to do is right from the morning is feed upon waking up and starting your clock. And what you try to do at that point, and one of the things that's really important to know with a 2-month-old baby, is that they're barely ever gonna make it 90 minutes. So if your baby's wide awake at 90 minutes, they're most likely missed their sleep window and they've gotten their second wind and they're incredibly difficult to put down. So what we really look to do is most 2-month-olds make it like 35, 40, maybe 45 minutes after feeding, and then they want to go down. And so if you feed, let's say at 7 a.m. you feed, and then they go down for a nap at 7:45 or 8, they're going to sleep for a full sleep cycle. They'll wake up at 9. There you go. You're ready to feed again upon waking up. So I would tell her to watch for the early sleep cues because they will be there much earlier on in the 90 minutes. We don't want it going past 90 minutes, but if they show those early sleep cues at 35 minutes, at 50 minutes, it's nap time. We follow their lead within those 90 minutes. So usually they're missing the sleep window.
Right.
Is there anything you can do when you miss that sleep window?
Jump out the window?
I like that. Because I'm like,
Usually what you do in those instances, what I usually recommend is kind of brace yourself. You're going to work really hard to get your baby down for a nap, and it's going to be a very short nap.
Okay.
So just kind of get your mindset, I'm going to work hard to get the nap because I've missed the window, and it's going to be a short nap, and that's okay. And then upon waking up, we'll feed again, and then we'll reset for the next nap. So to just kind of keep perspective right in that kind of window, and then you have time to kind of reset.
Great.
Did you have a 90-minute rule question?
I was going to say I have a 90-minute rule
It's
question.
a hot topic.
Hot topic. How old does this apply? And there was like a follow-up in this email. She wanted to know what age do naps change and what do the nap changes look like? And it just says new mom to newborn.
Okay, so usually from 0 to 6 months, you're still about every 90 minutes.
Okay.
And when they're younger, like 0 to 3 months, it's usually only like 45 minutes of being awake or 50 minutes. And you'll usually have one time during the day where it's 90 minutes. But as they start to get to 3 months and 4 months, they really go that 90 minutes. And when they get to about 5 and 6 months, it's still 90 minutes, but you'll usually have one time during the day where it's closer to about 2 hours. It's usually like 12 to 2 or 11 to 1. There's a midday stretch where they're awake a little bit longer. And again, you're looking for the sleep cues. So we're being mindful of the clock and making sure we're not missing their window of sleep, but we're also looking for those sleep cues because some days they need more sleep than other days. So we're following their lead. So babies typically take 4 naps a day,
Okay.
usually up until around the 6-month mark, 5 to 6 month mark. And again, this is not set in stone. You follow your baby's lead. Some days they're 4 naps, some days they're 3. It depends on how long their nap is and what's happening with feeding and so forth. So around the 6-month mark, we see a shift to 3 naps. And then I would say around the 10-month mark or so, you see a shift to kind of the 2 naps. And then they stay on the 2 naps for a pretty lengthy period of time. I mean, really until almost they're 15 to 18 months old. Then they typically shift to around 1 nap. And so again, if we're watching the clock, but we're also watching their sleep cues. So you use both of those in conjunction. If you do that, as your baby develops and gets older, you'll naturally see where they're stretching their awake time because you're watching their sleep cues, and their sleep cues don't change with age.
Right.
It stays the
They
same.
don't, because
Right.
Nikki just turned 2 and her sleep cue is rubbing the eyes, and she gets the red eyeliner,
Correct.
just like she always did.
So that is kind of like your golden ticket of, are they stretching at this age now? Are we dropping a nap? One of the things that people tend to that's tricky is when babies go through developmental surges, naps are the most significantly affected, and they can tend to skip one of their naps, and it's like a fight. You guys remember? And so you think, I remember you asking this question about Kayla, like, oh, I think she's done with 3 naps. I think she's done with 3 naps. And I said, give it a couple of weeks because it could be a developmental surge that's disrupting her, and she still really needs that nap. So
Right.
you keep the same framework. It's not like 2 or 3 days go by and you're like, oh, they've dropped a nap. It's really several weeks where they're giving you a consistent pattern of you're putting them down and they're not napping at that time.
I was going to say, but you're still putting them down.
Yeah,
Correct.
just give them the chance,
Yeah.
even if
Correct.
it's an hour of talking or whining.
Correct. You're keeping
it
the
in the
same
routine.
framework. You're giving them the boundaries, and then they can kind of develop within that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the pink red eyeliner for sleep cues, I had a question from Orange County with a 6-month-old. How does the pink eyeliner appear on a baby with darker skin? Because she's not seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's science behind why that appears and if there's a way to look for it in kids that aren't as
Yes.
pale.
So kids who are lighter skin, their pigment is different. So a pink coloring is going to show up much easier. There's no doubt about that. So what I recommend if you're, my third baby was definitely way more olive. And so the pink eyeliner didn't show up on her in the same way as my first two. And so the darker their skin and the change in the pigmentation, you are going to have a difference in that pink eyeliner. So what I encourage people to really look at is the puffiness under the eyes. That if you see pink eyeliner, you'll almost always at the same time see a puffiness under here. So those kind of go hand in hand, but a lot of times we miss that because babies have like puffy little faces, but there is a clear, distinct early sleep cue of puffiness. The other thing that all babies do that we tend to miss is they stare off into space as an early sleep cue. Mm-hmm. And so no matter where they are, what, how dark the skin is or whether they get the pink under the eye or not, you can rely on the puffiness underneath and then just kind of the dazed stare of like, you almost think like, are their eyes closed? Are they asleep?
Yeah.
They're awake? That's an early sleep cue.
Right.
It's like, no, they're telling you they need to sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Dazed and confused right
Right.
now.
Do you want to go next?
Ooh, I have a tummy time question from Citrus County, Florida. Mom of a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old. Tummy time. Can you let the baby nap on its stomach in lieu of TT, which I assume is tummy time?
The American Academy of Pediatrics still says all babies need to sleep on their backs in order to reduce SIDS. So babies should not be put down on their stomachs unless your pediatrician grants you permission because of a digestive issue and you're watching and monitoring the baby.
Okay.
So all babies should be placed on their backs. And yes, we all grew up sleeping on our bellies, and for sure that meant we didn't need tummy time. So much easier. I get it. Tummy time is a nightmare, but babies do need to sleep on their back. SIDS is in direct correlation with babies sleeping on their bellies. So tummy time does need to happen, and you're really lucky that you have that 2-year-old because when you put your baby on their belly for tummy time, have the 2-year-old lay directly across them face to face, and that 2-month-old will stretch their tummy time. I mean, my older kids did it for the younger one, and instead of it being my face to face, you have the toddler's face, and they love it. Or when you're on the changing table, depending on where it's located, you put your toddler on the end of the changing table, and after you change the diaper, you put the baby on the belly, and you make sure they can't roll off, and then have your toddler's face coming right above the changing table, and they're face to face, and the baby will stay on the changing table for quite a while with you standing there making sure they're safe. You'll get some really good tummy time using your toddler.
And the
Why
toddler
not?
probably loves it.
It's genius.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Long Island mom of a 19-month-old. How old is too old to start narrating to your baby? So we had that episode about
Right.
the importance of
Right.
growing your baby's brain.
I actually got that question from a couple of people. She just happened to ask it first, but a lot of people wanted to know that answer.
Is it too late?
Never. It is never too late. The critical stage of development for language is up until age 3, and social emotional development and attachment, they really say it's the first 3 years. So you've got that 3-year window. So whenever you can start narrating, you just go for it and jump in, and that narration will help to kind of lay those neurological pathways in like a healthy way. Now, let's say your child's older and you're hearing this podcast or coming across this. It's never too late. You're always going to have a benefit of narrating to your child because what you're doing is you're mirroring back to them what they're experiencing, which makes them feel seen and heard and validated. And let me tell you, I mean, Justin and I have been together for, 14 years, and narrating to each other makes a huge difference. Like if I'm kind of going on and on and on, and he just kind of narrates back to me, like, I hear you, you're saying this, and I get what it helps.
Right. You feel heard.
Right. So you feel that's for any age. But in terms of the critical stage of development for narrating with language, you have those first 3 years to have the most significant impact. But you can start narrating at any time, all day, every day, and you'll impact your child's life in a really positive way.
Okay, so don't beat yourself up for not knowing about it
No.
sooner. Just get in there
Oh
and
my
start
goodness.
it.
You know me, I'm not a fan of mommy shame. Like,
Right.
no. I mean, we can shame, bad ourselves for everything,
Yeah.
and it's too hard. It's
Right.
too hard. Guilt is toxic, shame is toxic. It's kind of like, okay, I didn't know that.
How do I course correct?
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to start it today. Great. So we really have got to be kinder to ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. Are you up?
Yeah, I got a question for you and me, girl.
Oh, good.
Woohoo!
All right, for Megan. And this is from a dad.
Okay.
A dad who has a wife who's debating whether to stay at home or go back to work and really is on the fence. And the dad wants to know how we came to that decision. He wants to know, Megan, do you like working or do you wish you stayed at home?
Got it. Well, like we talked about in our episode that you and I had, to stay or not to stay at home, when I went to Danielle and her first question was, if it's financial, check that box, that's your answer, and you have to kind of deal with it from there. So that decision for me was kind of made just because of the way our lives are set up. We really didn't want to readjust things in a way financially that would mean that I would stay at home. So that answered my question there. And then as far as do I like it, it has worked for me. I do like it. I like my job, so that helps. If I didn't, that would be really hard. If I had to go somewhere that I felt wasn't worth it, I don't know how I would feel about that. But I love what I do, so I feel lucky about that. And I just feel like Kayla gets the best of me because when I come home, I'm ready for her. I haven't been drained by her all day, which I know can happen when I am with her all day. So I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy with my choice.
Husband, dad, for your second part, do I miss working full time? At times I do, for sure. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. There's times when I would love to just put on like a pencil skirt and heels and get back out there and do what I used to do. But at the end of the day, like every time I'm away from Mickey for more than an hour, I miss her, even on the hard days. So I love that I get that extra time with her, and I really, really love that I get to apply what I have learned in Danielle's class as much as possible all day, and like that to me is not replaceable. So that would be my case for your wife to maybe consider staying at home.
It's tricky. It's a really difficult time because those first several years are so critical and so important. And I know, Megan, you have some flexibility in your schedule, which allows you to have a lot more time with Kayla than traditional working moms.
Right.
But it's really tricky those first few years. But for women, when we've worked so hard to drive our career, if you take a few years off, it's really hard to get, depending on what field you're in, it's really hard to get back in there.
If you can at all.
Right. And so there's a huge predicament for moms, for women, which is if I make this choice to stay home, am I saying goodbye to my career? Or if I choose to keep working, then I'm missing something. And the reality is it doesn't ever feel great either way. No. And so how do we accept that that's just what we have to maneuver through and manage? Because we do.
Yeah.
I do love it though. Like that was like my case for I can see both sides, but at the end of the day, I really do love being a stay-at-home mom, and I'm very happy being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah. And I see that in you. You know, you are like a duck in a pond. You clearly love it, and I think that's so awesome because it's so hard. It is really hard.
But that's like the other piece of it where like if you don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like don't be a martyr. You're gonna burn the candle at both ends.
You're bringing up something that's really important, that moms feel like there's something wrong with them if they want to return to work.
Right.
Yes.
And we are daughters of the feminist movement, so it has been ingrained in us to be as proactive and productive in our work life. And so, but then we're also coming up to this really mindful parenting, proactive world right now. And that puts us as females in a really tough spot because it's like a no-win in either direction. And so it's okay if you want to go back to work. It's okay. But then what I always say is those primary years are so crucial that you have an obligation and a responsibility to make sure whoever is with your child during that time, that their parenting approach, their childcare approach reflects what you would be providing for them if you were at home. So I think finding the right childcare situation, if you're going back to work, is your biggest responsibility and is completely doable.
Yes, which I know, which we found, and then that has made it so much better, and it feels like doable.
Does that help with like the guilt or the feeling bad for leaving? Because like when I leave, I know she's getting A, B, C, D, and E.
Absolutely, yeah. Kayla's needs are being met, which is all that matters, and so I can go to work feeling good about that.
Right.
But,
and remember, attachment. So much about attachment theory is like to the mom, to the mom, to the mom, to the mom, and really, Secure attachment, yes, starts with the mom, but it's learning how to have healthy, balanced, secure attachment with others as well. So there's a benefit to that.
Yeah, I mean, the more people that love Kayla, the better.
Jump on the
Hallelujah.
bandwagon.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Kayla fans here.
I love Kayla.
Oh, yeah.
Kayla. Mickey loves Kayla.
Do you have any more for today?
I think that wraps up my stack of questions.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for giving us your questions, and keep them coming. We're going to do this ever so often and answer your questions.
Yeah, keep emailing us, Facebook us if you know us, and yeah, we love questions.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, I'm here to provide information. You figure out what is best for you and for your family. You can pick different pieces. You can take all of it. You can take none of it. We're here to provide a community and a discussion and a format, and you make the choices and decisions that feel best for you and for your family.
Great. Thanks everyone. Bye.
See ya.